Hey guys, Zeros here, and I think it's time for another one of my spiel videos. A video where I just kind of talk about things that have been on my mind lately. And one thing in particular I'm going to do in this video. The video today is going to be about, well, you can read the title. It's going to be about slut-shaming versus all men are potential rapists, or as some feminists would just say, all men are just rape machines. So we're going to talk about these two different concepts, and we're going to compare and contrast them and really think about them. So I think today's video is going to be pretty good, so let's start. So a couple of months ago I made a video titled Why It's Wrong to Be a Whore in response to Lacey Green. It is the first response I ever did to Lacey Green, but it didn't actually follow the response video style that a lot of YouTubers use. It was just me talking and addressing her points and talking about why, or really just explaining why society as a whole disdains whores. But I really actually want to delve into one reason in particular why society dislikes whores. In a later video, I'm going to talk about a lot of other social taboos that a lot of people don't understand, but are actually grounded in some ideologies that make a lot of sense. But that really isn't this video. The reason why I bring up the video that I made a couple months ago is because I got overwhelmingly negative response over that video, right? Like, a lot of people disliked that video, and I think they missed a lot of what I was saying in that video in particular. So hopefully this video might somewhat clear it up, because they kept telling me that I was slut shaming, or that somehow I was misogynistic or somehow, but we're gonna delve into that in this video, so don't worry about that. But yeah, it was that video. I was looking back at it, and it really made me start thinking about this. And then of course, the feminists, oh my gosh, the feminists. I've been watching some feminist videos, and they're freaking crazy. And that's what made me really start and think about this whole dichotomy, this whole slut-shaming rape culture thing, and this whole men are just potential rapists. So we're going to talk about that in detail right now. So let's talk about slut-shaming first, because ladies come first, right? Chivalry and all that goodness. The very first thing I'm going to do is talk about my problems with slut-shaming, and then I'm going to break it down to help you viewers understand what it is. A huge problem I have with the term slut-shaming is the implications that the person who is being slut-shamed is a slut. Like, you idiots do realize whenever you say stop slut-shaming her, you're calling that girl a slut, even when she isn't actually a slut. Okay, so then that opens this question. What is a slut? The word slut is actually a derivative of the term slut. It was a middle-aged term used to describe a woman that was dirty or slovenly or slattern. Basically just a dirty, poor peasant woman, right? So the word slut, in its root, the very beginning of the word, has always been rooted specifically towards women. This is particularly why there is no word used to describe men who are promiscuous. Now, you're probably wondering, wait a minute, if the word slut just means a dirty woman, how did it become associated with prostitution? Very simple. Back in the Middle Ages, a lot of peasant women had to have sex or had to become prostitutes in order to find some way to get paid. So because a lot of prostitutes were dirty, and dirty women are sluts, most prostitutes were sluts. This is how the two words became associated with one another. Right? Pretty simple. So, what exactly does the word slut mean? Let's find out. Webster defines a slut as a promiscuous woman. It's that simple, Perhaps we should go to UrbanDictionary.com to get a better term. Well, according to UrbanDictionary.com, slut, a derogatory term, refers to a sexually promiscuous person, usually female, or one who engages in sexual activity with a large number of persons, occasionally simultaneously. Also refers to one who engages in sexual activity outside of a long-term relationship within the duration of said relationship. Now, before we continue, I think it's very important that we actually define one last word, which is a whore. Now, the words slut and whore are usually used interchangeably, but there's actually a difference between the two. A whore is a prostitute, and a prostitute is a woman who gets paid for her sexual activity. A slut is a woman who participates in lots of sexual activity, but does not necessarily get paid for it, at least for the enjoyment of having sex. So then, I think it's finally time we actually define what is slut-shaming. The term slut-shaming itself seems to be at the very core of all feminist ideology. So I think it's time we actually define it so we know what we're talking about. Lacey defines slut-shaming as insulting a woman because she expresses her sexuality in a way we don't like or approve of. Well, I'm not 100% sure everyone wants to work off of Lacey's definition. However, when I was doing my research, I came to realize something. Only women can be slut-shamed. Because every single definition I read for the word slut-shaming always pandered towards women being slut-shamed. And just in case you don't believe me, I'll just read off a couple of examples from UrbanDictionary.com. No, the very first one is an unfortunate phenomenon in which people degrade or mock a woman. Stop right there. Okay, the very next one's pretty cool. The very next one is to shame someone, male or female, for sleeping around indiscriminately with anyone and everyone they can, often without knowing the person's name. Okay. Insulting a woman for having sex. Well, there you go. A good way to make a hoe feel guilty because she doesn't know how to have fun without spreading her legs. Okay, that was kind of funny. The act of putting someone down for having sex with too many people, normally applied only to women, but can and should be used for men also. This is a phrase used as a diversionary tactic by feminists and meant to trick men into thinking that a slut is just as good as any virginal, nubile woman. It is used by feminists and a talking point given out to mangina white knights because they have an inferiority complex towards real women who are not sluts, i.e. non-feminists and or foreign women. I don't like that definition. Apparently, 3,000 people did not. So, my major problem with the term slut-shaming is how specific it is. Think about it for a second. The word can only talk about women. Only women can be slut-shamed by most of the definitions that we read. And then there's the idea that the reason why these women are slut-shamed because they are having sex. This is what I mean by so specific. But it's actually not just sex. It's actually like the way they dress. It's making fun of her for the way she dressed and calling her a slut or a whore because of that. But again, it's specific. It's only about women, and it's usually only something women say to other women. But here's the thing. It's always about appearance or sex. Because at the end of the day, being a jerk to someone, you're just being a jerk to someone. You don't need to have a phrase or a specific shaming for every aspect of life. Because think about it, there are so many atheists here on YouTube who talk about Christian videos, who make fun of Christians and call them stupid. But you're never going to hear a Christian say, "Oh man, you're idiot shaming, you should stop doing that." No, because that's ridiculous, that's asinine. My last problem is that, to me, it sounds like these feminists are attempting to promote sluts as a viable or valuable way of life, as something that they should be able to do with no repercussions at all. And that's not the way the world works. You tell all these women that it's okay for them to be sluts and to go around having all these sex and dressing the way they want to dress. Okay, granted, you can do that, but there's always going to be a cost. There's always going to be some type of repercussion for it. And I feel like these feminists aren't preparing women for that. Henceforth, slut-shaming. Because feminists are always telling them that it's okay for you to dress a certain way and that you don't deserve to get raped. And they're absolutely right. Nobody deserves to get raped. I will continue and always say that on my channel. No one deserves to be raped, and no one can ask to be raped. By the very definition of the word rape destroys the argument that someone asked to be raped. So the next time someone says that, just blow them off, because they don't know what they're talking about. Because once again, the definition of the word rape destroys that argument in of itself, because no one can ask for forceful penetration. That makes no sense. So I feel like these feminists are preparing these women for the type of attention or backlash that they'll get. But there's something more to it than just that. I do not understand this concept of expressing your sexuality. Now, in a lot of the definitions I read, that's what they always said. Lacey said, expressing your sexuality. And I don't understand what that means. So I purposely didn't look it up so this reaction can be as honest as it can be. So I don't get what it means, because when I stop and I think about it, I'm like, well, I mean, do they mean that expressing your sexuality is just showing that you like men, or you just are heterosexual? I don't get that. Because if that is indeed the case, then that would mean that there are other ways to express said sexuality. I mean, you can just get married and have a child and just be a mother and raise your child. That would be expressing your sexuality. So why is it only you have to be able to go around having a whole bunch of sex to express it? Why can't there be other ways to express said sexuality. Because I've only heard one way. I've never heard any feminists say being a stay-at-home mom is expressing your sexuality, and that's perfectly fine. I've never heard that. So I don't get that. I don't understand it. So if you guys comment on the video and talk about this expression of sexuality. So now that we've talked about slut shaming, let's talk about this feminist idea that all men are potential rapists. Now, let's stop and really think about that phrase for a second. What does that mean? Because if you think about it, there really isn't anything telling in that statement. You know, because I can make the assertion that all cats are potential mouse killers. Now, this doesn't mean that all cats have killed mice. That just means they have the ability to. So I guess that statement is correct when you say all men are potential rapists. Potentially, they have the ability to rape someone. But then you can go as far as to say all human beings are potential murderers. But we don't judge people based on their ability to kill or their propensity to do so. Because that would mean we'd have to, what? Jail every human being in the world. So really, there's nothing telling in the statement. There's no information of value in saying that men are potential rapists, except this key idea right here. Only men are potential rapists. See, and this is why I'm comparing and contrasting the two, because the word slut only applies to women, or originally it only applied to women. All men are potential rapists only apply to men. That's why I'm comparing and contrasting the two. Now, some feminists will go as far as to say all men are just rape machines and any type of heterosexual sex is rape. So, I thought about this and I realized that the two ideas cannot coexist with one another. Because if all women are able to go around and dress however they want and have as much sex as they want, one, the dressing part is just teasing men, just teasing their sexuality, just teasing their want to have sex. But if they act on it, if they have sex with these women that give them consent, well then feminists would just say, you know, he just raped you, because some feminists do have this idea that any type of sex is rape, right? So, to me it makes no real logical kind of sense, because on the one hand, the feminists want women to be able to dress however they want and have as much sex with whoever they want, right? That's perfectly fine. But at the same time, they want them to be scared of the people they're supposed to have sex with. It makes no sense. So, honestly, I don't think men or women should try to live a promiscuous lifestyle. And now this is just my opinion. You guys don't have to agree. But if you do disagree, we can talk about it. That's perfectly fine. I encourage it. But this is just my opinion, you know. So don't take it as the gospel truth. But you know, in my opinion, I don't think men or women should go around having lots of sex, because, you know, idealistically, if the women were on contraceptives and the man, you know, always wore a condom, and you guys were always protected, and you guys knew no strings were attached and everything, that would satisfy the physical part. That would satisfy the part where it's not dangerous, right? My first problem with that is ultimately it's meaningless. There's really no point in doing it if you guys aren't trying to build a relationship and you're just doing it just so you guys can ejaculate or satisfy the primal urge. Then you may as well just masturbate. I don't find any logical reason to go out and spend money or spend time trying to convince somebody to do something that intimate with you when you can get the same result with some lotion or the same result with a vibrator. It makes no logical sense to me. Why go out and spend all this money on something that you could do by yourself in your room? So to me, that just doesn't make any sense. So while idealistically it sounds reasonable to be able to use contraceptives and wear a condom, no one actually does it. And because no one actually does it, or only a small percentage of people do, you're always going to end up with the chance of getting STDs, or you're going to end up with a child. And I feel like that's one of the worst things you can do to a kid, is to try to raise them up in a broken home. So, without getting into detail, like I said, I always feel like the family unit is the best thing a child can go through, you know. So, that's why I think that's why I'm all for monogamous relationships. And I think it's ridiculous to be promiscuous, especially during adolescency when you can't raise a child and you don't actually want to go through all the steps to protect yourself. It makes no logical sense to me. But if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Comment in the comment box below why. And that is it for this video. So, as always, thank you for stopping by. If you like this video, please click the like button. And go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. And as always, have a great day. And I'll see you cool cats soon.